Welcome everyone to another Conversations in the Void. I am Graveyard, joined with my off-screen producer Salem. He's in the chat. Say hi to Salem. He likes to hear from each and every one of you. Sorry, I'm a little darker than normal. My ring light is still kind of messed up. I don't know why right now, but we'll get into that later. But I'm excited for the guest we have tonight. I've been talking back and forth with her for a number of months now, and I'm excited. So, author, illustrator of Phantom Features, lover of 90s horror. Please welcome the Void, Rachel Dressler.
Hi.
Hello, how are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, good. Like I said, my ring light messing up. I don't know what's wrong with it, but
Oh man, must be cursed.
it has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I'm excited. I know we've had this planned out for a couple of months now, and we're finally here.
Yeah. Yeah. I was interested and I saw a few episodes of this podcast and I got all excited and yeah, I'm ready to roll.
Yes. So we like to kind of introduce yourself to the audience and get to know you a little bit better, and just kind of ease into this show. So do you remember what really brought you into the horror world?
Yes. Uh, so very vividly, it was Are You Afraid of the Dark? And I remember I was like probably like 5 years old, or like that's as far as my memory kind of goes back to that. And
Hmm.
mom kind of ran a daycare and I was in her house and I was one of the younger kids, so all the older kids would watch Are You Afraid of the Dark, and I would make couch cushion forts and then they would tell me when all the scary parts showed up,
Uh-huh.
so I'd hide behind the couch and the scary parts. And then I remember it was rated Y7, so when I turned 7 I thought automatically I won't be afraid anymore, and then the day I turned 7, watched an episode, I was still afraid of like the same parts.
Is there any particular episode that sticks in your mind? For me, it was the clown episode where he goes and seal the clown's nose off of the like the haunted house, and it follows back.
Yes. It was like one of the clown episodes. I think it was like that ghastly grinner one because they were like smiling and like the green goop coming out of their
Hmm.
mouth. And then also like that vampire one in the hospital. I don't know if you remember that one, but
Yeah.
I remember like the teeth marks on their neck just like freaked me out for some reason.
Yeah, I love that show. I grew up with it too, and Goosebumps as well, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Goosebumps was more like a Saturday morning show for me, but I remember like that Say Cheese or Die episode
Hmm.
scared me, like, because I was like, oh my gosh, like, am I gonna turn really fat like that guy, or am I gonna be like really skinny and blow away in the wind like that one girl?
Yeah, like I said, it's funny because now I have kids myself, and we started. I bought the entire Goosebumps collection because unfortunately I sold it when I got older, and I
Oh,
brought it back, and now reading it with my kids, and now we're going back and watching then the episodes of the TV show after we read the book.
that's the way to do it. Yeah, like bring the modern kids back into our day, because I want to say like kid TV was done right during our time.
Yeah, yeah. Did you also watch like Erie, Indiana?
No, what is that?
It was almost like X Files esque, but like in the same vein as Goosebumps. So like it was two kids investigating paranormal stuff around their town.
Oh, sweet. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, I love that show just because I'm from Indiana. So
Oh, of course. Yeah,
yeah,
it's like I just found out that Paramount Plus has like all of their You Afraid of Dark episodes, and I totally binged that when I had COVID the other month. So definitely like a worthy thing.
yeah. Like I said, it's a great show. I absolutely love it. And we have a question I just have to get to here. Who is that adorable cat that's next to you?
Oh
Laurel
well,
wants to know.
this is Poe.
Oh,
Yeah, the name is fitting, I think.
oh yeah. So Rachel, for you, do you obviously like horror movies as well? Do you recall what your first horror movie was?
Ooh, so that's like a tough memory. It's a kind of blurred because so I remember, if you remember back in the day when we had the VHS players, the way to pirate something on TV was you would like record the
Hmm.
VHS and get all that. So like my dad made probably like 50 of these tapes. He had like a whole library. And I remember like he had like a book too that like was just like, all right, A5 is like this movie. and he had like a horror section, which was like only 5 movies. He wasn't a huge horror fan.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to be a rebel or whatever, and I remember he had The Omen recorded. So that, I want to say, was like the first real like big kid horror movie that I saw, and I can't tell you how old I was. I was probably like 4 or 5.
I mean, I think everyone usually remembers their first horror movie. You know, for me, it was Jaws, and scared the ever living crap out of me at like 3. But I remember probably about 89, 90, I saw Child's Play for the first time, and I was like 5 or 6. And I absolutely loved horror ever since that point in time.
Oh my gosh, it must be something with Chucky, because Child's Play, I want to say, is what turned me on more into the horror. Like, I watched, my dad was first like introduced me into Child's Play like kind of early on, and
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know what it was about Chucky, but I just got like hooked. I just started watching every single Chucky movie. I started making like Chucky playing cards and everything. Like I became like obsessed.
That's awesome. I didn't know at the time, you know, like I said, I'm closer to Chicago than Indiana. I'm just like, it's Lakeshore Strangler. I drive on Lakeshore. I worked in Chicago. That's where
Oh,
Charles Lee Ray was supposed
that's
to be, because it's
awesome.
a Chicago-based movie.
Yeah, like I always wondered like why it was so cold, and I was just like, oh my gosh, it's in Chicago, of course.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I know, as we were talking before, you know, offline, that you like to collect everything in the 90s horror and stuff too. So, in your thought, is there anything in the 90s that like doesn't get enough attention or love as a horror movie or IP?
As a movie, well, all right, I feel like The Blair Witch gets a lot of hate, but I honestly think that's a brilliant movie. Like, even though people are just like, oh, it was low budget, it was just like some kids messing around with the camera, but they had a great idea and
Hmm.
they ran with it, and like it was kind of like that pinnacle of the found footage that first started it off, and a lot of movies followed. So, I have a lot of respect for the Blair Witch. And when I first watched it, I actually thought it was real, because they went beyond like with the website and everything. That's just like, oh man, these kids are still missing. Here's the evidence. I like totally got sucked into it.
Yeah, I agree. Like, the viral marketing of that was spectacular, because the cast couldn't even show up in public, instead for like a year after filming it, just to give into the illusion of it.
Oh, I didn't even know that part of it, but I remember like the cast saying that they didn't exactly know what was going to happen. Like, they had somewhat set up like interviewing townspeople, but as far as like what happened to them during the night and in the tent and everything, they didn't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a great formula. You know, I work with a production company that makes indie found footage movies now, so you know, we just channeling our inner Blair Witch when we make some of this stuff sometimes.
It's like, I don't know. I have a lot of respect for the found footage and indie movies and all of that.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this: is there anything, you know, could be any time frame of movies that you just don't understand, like why it's a $1 billion franchise? I say that because I say Conjuring myself, but what about you? Is there anything that's just like, I don't get this? Why is this so popular?
Well, I might get a lot of hate for this, but like the Alien movies, I don't know like what it is about them, but I just like get bored during them. I don't know, like it's like kind of like a slower type movie, and they have a cool alien, like the concept, but I don't know.
That's my off-screen producer. He's a huge Alien fan. As we in fact are, you know, see Alien Rhyme with us twice, because we saw it about 75% Sunday, and then the IMAX died completely, so we have to go back now to go see it.
I do still want to see it though, so I still have respect for the Alien movies. I just like, I don't know, for some reason I have trouble paying attention to them.
Yeah, I think, you know, that's why I love horror. Everyone has their own likes and dislikes, just because it's fantastic, and like, everyone has those subgenres. I love it. And that's why I like asking these questions, is to see, you know, where the general populace is for a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, like I have respect for like all horror movies. Like it doesn't matter how shitty it was done, because in the end they took the time to make a movie, and it's like I didn't do that. They took the time to write it, they shot it, like all of that. So it's just like, even if it's corny as shit, I still respect the art, you know?
Yeah. Like the chat's talking about the popcorn bucket. Yeah, it's that popcorn bucket sold out, and scalpers are insane right now online for it.
Oh my gosh, yeah, those popcorn buckets. Like I remember the Scream popcorn bucket went like crazy fast.
Yeah, it's just weird that we have that now, that we have collectors popcorn buckets for movies.
Yeah, and I can never get my hands on them. Like for some reason, they're just sold out within the first 5 days or something.
I think it's a lot of people that just go there honestly to buy it and then go scalp it on eBay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
All right.
that's the plight of a horror lover, is that we pay out the nose for everything we love.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like horror cons, like the prices are just so crazy, but I don't know. I just spend it anyway.
Oh yeah, with collecting stuff, you buy physical copies of like all the movies.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I can just maybe show my camera. So that's just like some of my movies.
Nice.
It's like half the collection.
Yeah, I don't know what it is that we just get charged outrageous prices for everything. Like my co-host and I, we collect laser discs because we like that physical media, and it's just the price of it is outrageous. Like, $50 for like Pinocchio's Revenge, which is like a TV movie, or 300 if it's a known movie. It's just absurd sometimes.
Oh my gosh! And Pinocchio's Revenge was randomly like really good. Like it doesn't seem like it would be, but I'm just that twist at the end.
Yeah. I said I like it just because I had a really fond memory of that from my childhood and seeing it. I don't know how I saw it at that time when it came out, but it was there.
Yeah, I don't know how I saw it either. Like I think it was just a random streaming movie. I was like, ah, a doll movie. Like I just love doll movies for some reason. Chucky got me
Yeah.
on-
Now, do you like the Puppet Master series at all?
So actually, my friend just got me into those. So I watched like the first two. I mean, I still liked it and everything. Obviously, like I thought it was like a little cheesy, but in a good way.
Right.
This is the right amount of cheese.
Yeah, there's like 15 of them now.
Yeah, it's just like I have a lot to go through.
Yeah, I usually make it through like 1 through 4, and then I give up and try to rewatch the series.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah, I think I have like the first 5 that I have to go through that my friend is lending me right now, and then I don't know how I'm going to watch the other 10.
I think they're all on Shudder at this point in time, quite honestly.
Oh, really? Okay. Well,
Yeah, yeah, because it's Full Moon Pictures, and they're still putting stuff out, but not frequently, and it seems like there'd be more streaming out because everything was just straight to DVD at one point, or straight to VHS.
yeah,
Now it's straight to streaming.
makes some sense. Especially
All right. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about you and your work, Phantom Feature. So, you started writing in 3rd grade, and tell us a little bit about your writing process then versus what you have done now.
Yeah, so in the 3rd grade, so I remember like I started reading the Bailey School Kid books. I don't know if you remember them, but it's just like, zombies don't square dance, like those
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. So I really liked those, and I kind of like based my first books off of that. Like, I made like this series called The Ghost Kids, instead of Bailey School Kids. So like they were like a group that kind of like, investigated spooky things.
Mhm.
And then as I got older, I started reading the Goosebump books. Then I kind of made like my own knockoff series called like Scream and Terrors. So it was a little, like I kind of like followed the Goosebumps outline, but like obviously I didn't copy any of it or whatever, but I kind of
Right.
just looked up to the Goosebump books. I'm like, all right, I want to write in this style. And then, so I kind of like just did that all throughout growing up, and, my writing obviously matured. And,
Hmm.
by like high school, I was writing my first novel, which was my debut novel that I publish now. But after I graduated, I kind of like I finished the novel, but I just didn't do anything with it. Just like sat on the computer, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna carry it around in like this CD because that's how I saved it. And
Right.
like years later, I start reading it, and I was just like, hey, this actually isn't half bad. Like I got a good idea here. Like it just needs a lot of cleaning up and a lot of grammar. And yeah, so I kind of like rewrote it, but I still kept like the main idea and like the main storyline and the plot points. And I was just like determined to finish that. especially after I like got laid off from my 9 to 5 job, and I was like, all right,
Hmm.
now like I have the opportunity to try to complete like part of my dream. Like I feel like since being a writer back in elementary school, like I feel like that's part of my mission on Earth or whatever. So I was like, I'm gonna finish this no matter what. So I just like I edited it, and then I edited it again, and I got like hired an editor, and I like went through a lot of proofreading, and the whole process like took forever. And then I also illustrated,
Hmm.
quite a few pictures in it too, because I had an idea that like I wanted to bring back like some of the nostalgic 90s vibes in my books, like scary stories to tell in the dark, how they
Right.
was creepy drawings. So like
Yeah.
that's the drawings I was like after. Yeah, so I kind of like did those type of sketches, and then I wanted to like basically kind of have like a Goosebumps for adults vibe. So I kind of like followed the Goosebumps format type thing in my book, but way more mature. I actually like have gore, and there's like swearing and all of that. So it's definitely like for high schoolers and up. But yeah, so I just like kind of combined those ideas and from my childhood, and then before long I released my debut novel.
Yeah. So what was that process like going through the editing, and even you're self-published, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a process. So like first I edited it probably twice before I actually sent it to a professional editor.
Hmm.
And then the after the professional editor did her edits, I went over that again because I wanted to make sure I liked it and everything. So I still tweaked some stuff there. And then I was like, all right, well, I need like a proofreader now that's not me. And my dad was like really interested in proofreading. He always helped me with writing in school and just like my schoolwork in general. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll let my dad proofread it. And he actually did
Hmm.
a good job proofreading it. So after he did his proofreading, I did my proofreading. And then by then I was, all right, I had to decide if I wanted to go the regular publishing route or self-publishing. And I chose self-publishing because I wanted all the creative control. I was like, I want to
Right.
control my artwork, because I feel like if I went traditional publish, they would be like, nah, none of this artwork. We're just our own illustrators. Yeah.
Right.
So I like went that route, and I basically started on Amazon because I was like, all right, this is kind of the easiest self-publishing platform in my opinion. It was pretty straightforward, and
Hmm.
the cover was a little pain in the ass to make, try to like make it fit their format.
Oh.
Yeah, like believe it or not, that was like the most annoying thing because you had to kind of line it up specifically to their template and make the images perfect.
Hmm.
Yeah. But after all that, like, I announced it probably like a month before its release or so, try to get all my friends on board and hyped up and start doing pre-orders. And, most of the pre-orders were just like the love and support of my friends and family. So when it was released, like, I just like already had all these book sales, and I was like, oh, wow, this is like so much love.
Wow.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, I was just like so proud of myself at that point. I
Yeah.
didn't really care about the book sales. It was kind of just more about like me accomplishing a goal and basically fulfilling my childhood dream of becoming an
Right. Yeah. I can only imagine. I haven't looked into that side of it. I discuss it with my co-hosts a lot. Maybe writing short stories, making collections. I know someone else on my production team has written some short story collections too, and I go, I don't think I'm that good of a writer because, quite honestly, Mike Salem is my script doctor. He is my proofreader. He kind of goes everything that I do before I submit it to publication or anything like that. Because we've written for like some magazines as well. But
I think you
I,
should go for it.
there's part of me that really wants to do it, and there's also part of me that also wants to take these shorts and film them as well.
Oh, yeah. I totally like understand that.
Yeah, way back in the day, I was writing short stories and stuff like that when I was doing my 9 to 5 job as a teenager, and my buddy just found them. Like we worked together, like we were like 19, 18, 19, and 20. And he goes, "Hey, I found all the stuff you wrote." I'm like, he's like, "We should make these." And I go, I have to look over now because that was 20 years ago for me to do it.
I mean, I'm sure there's still something that like the concept is all that matters, like little edits here and there. You can just hire an editor for that, but I think
Yeah.
it's totally like if you already have the short stories, like, it doesn't hurt to try to make it into a book. I really try to encourage like anyone who likes to write out there, like anyone can do it. Anyone can self-publish a book and try to get it out there. And, we're a huge advocate of that.
Yeah, like I said, my Salem, my co-host, my producer here, he loves to write way more than I do, so I really want him to be able to do that. uh, so, kind of going, back into your writing. So, why do you think people are drawn to horror? You talk about diving deep into the minds and the macabre. So, why do you think we're drawn to it as a whole?
I think it's like all of the psychological behind it because I feel like we all battle our inner demons. And I feel like, like for me, I have a lot of, random anxieties. I'll have like a little bit of OCD, a little bit of health anxiety and everything. So I try to like incorporate those fears in the back of my mind and then just try to put it onto paper in kind of a, fantasy type way.
Hmm.
So I think honestly, like, and I think it is for a lot of people. A lot of people are drawn into the horror and suspense, specifically for that psychological factor.
Right, for sure. You talk about. I know you want to eventually make some of your short stories and even your stories into film. What's that been like for you? Have you been able to start that process at all?
Oh, not yet, but it's definitely a dream of mine. Yeah, I want to, eventually write a screenplay. I have a pretty good idea for one, but I just haven't gotten on board with that. That's a
It,
process.
yeah, like I said, we have a question here from our regulars. You know, what would you do different if your book series was adapted into a movie or a mini series?
I think I would probably, hmm, I'd probably focus more on implying things because with books, you could kind of tell exactly what's going on in the character's mind.
Hmm.
Whereas when you're filming, you have to imply everything. Like even when it comes to people's names, like you're not going to know their name unless another character says their name. Whereas in a book,
Right.
like, all right, Craig said this. Like, so I think that would be the main difference. A lot of implications and just creating the right cinematography to go with that.
Right. I guess would you want yours to be live action, or especially with your illustrations? Would you want to go like I don't know if you ever watched the TV show Lore that was on Amazon, where they have animated storytelling? Would you want to go down that path?
That is a cool path, but I always imagined in my head live action. But I don't know. I feel like if I was doing an audio narration of my stories, I would want like an animation to go with it. Yeah, I narrated probably like two stories on my YouTube channel, not many, but like I think it would be so cool to have some sort of animation going along with it. I just don't know how to get that accomplished yet.
Yeah, I know there's good people. I talk to a lot of people that make comic books. Have you ever thought about doing like a comic book with your stories and illustrations?
Ooh, that's a good idea. I haven't thought of that yet, but definitely like so I have three different book series in this Phantom Features franchise I'm creating. And one
Hmm.
of the series I want has like short stories and I want to do kind of like different art styles in that. Like I want to leave that series open for, maybe possibly doing a graphic novel or possibly having a book of just spooky poems or, so if I were to do some sort of comic book or graphic novel, it would probably be in the Phantom Features Shorts series.
Yeah, I haven't purchased them yet. I plan on purchasing here, definitely to get into it. 'Cause I always look for new stories to tell my kids, and they are starting to get into the spooky world too. But you also say that your books aren't for adults or children; they're just kind of anyone that loves be spooked, right?
Yeah, because I don't have any like hardcore adult themes or anything like that. And the words that I use I feel like people of all ages would be kind of able to understand it. I mean, like maybe not kids younger than like 9 or not younger than 8, I'd say.
Hmm.
But I don't use like very complex words. I mean, is a little bit of swearing, but I actually do have a line of books that's specifically for kids, like elementary school kids. So I released one book so far under the kids series. It's a Christmas book. It's called I'd Rather Have a Green Christmas.
Hmm.
So definitely, if anyone has little kids out there, I would suggest going with those books.
For sure. Now, do you think that what we grew up with was too mature for our minds at that point in time versus with what you're writing, or do you think they're just kind of along the same vein?
I think it's along the same lines. Yeah.
Okay. Now, did you watch any of the new revivals that we had of, the Goosebumps movies or the Fear Street trilogy or even Are You Afraid of the Dark revivals? We had 2 seasons of that.
Oh yeah. So I totally did. My favorite one out of those is probably, I think they did a good job with the Goosebumps. Like, I just like how they didn't copy it exactly, and
Right.
but they still implemented all of the ideas in a way that made sense with like then the storyline continued, and I just thought they did a good job with the Goosebumps, I think.
Now, did you watch the Are You Afraid of the Dark revival as well?
Yeah. So that one was also like they kind of had the same thing going on there. It wasn't as many episodes as the Goosebumps show, if I can recall. I think it was like a part 1 and part 2. Wasn't
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
yeah, but that one I still thought it was like a good idea. I liked the carnival idea that they had going on, and you know, I
for
just
sure.
wish they incorporated like more of the original Are You Afraid of the Dark content in there. You know.
Yeah. Now, have you thought about submitting any of your short stories to like the No Sleep podcast or No Sleep subreddit where they will get voice actors to read out your story for you as well?
Oh yes. Yeah, so I actually did submit a story to the Chilling Tales to Dark Nights podcast. And one of them got in like kind of like one of their like side podcasts called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark by Otis Gyrie.
Okay.
So yeah, so one of my stories got on that podcast, but I definitely still want to produce more stories and start submitting them to more podcasts and just getting it out there and getting voice actors to read them.
Is that surreal for you to hear your work being talked about by someone else through their words?
Yeah, it is the weirdest thing. Especially when like they add sound effects and everything. I'm just like, whoa.
Now, did you find their like inflections were at the right point and dramatic pauses, what you had envisioned in your head while writing it?
Yeah, I would say that they were pretty close. They actually did some edits themselves, so I'm just like, all right, I guess like however they try to fit it in, they can do that. But I'm actually working with a voice actor right now to create an audiobook for my debut novel, Vengeance on Trespassers. So, I heard him read the prologue and everything, and like actually kind of get to work with him and see how the process is going. So, I mean, he's using like tools like making his like with AI making his voice sound like a female voice for certain female parts.
Hmm.
It's really interesting just seeing like the whole process of how he does this.
Yeah, that really sounds interesting. I know a guy who just started doing VO work probably last year, and the tools and seeing him set up his sound booth is just absolutely amazing. As a inspiring filmmaker as myself, I love to see other people's interpretations of what I've written down.
Yeah, yeah, it's so surreal when you see that.
Yeah. Now, with your stories and stuff like that, do you envision? We talk about the movie stuff like that. Do you want to be like a whole universe? Are you building a universe with your work?
Yeah, that's my goal. Like, I want to make a Phantom Features universe and, kind of have this like 90s vibe going on. And, with the reason I say it's Phantom Features is because I try to imagine it's like a short film type thing, like a
Hmm.
remedy film. So, in like a dusty old theater, and you're just like watching my books. envision that. And I mean, even though the stories aren't exactly connected, like, each book is standalone, so you don't have to read one to read the next one.
Hmm.
But, I do want to create a universe where like maybe like one story would have like a little Easter egg from another book.
Yeah, kind of. I think Fear Street was a little that way too in the '90s, where everything takes place in Fear Street, obviously, but there's just kind of like a reference, almost like the Dairy Maine of Stephen King as well.
Yeah, yeah, I want to do definitely something like that.
That's awesome. Now, do you have any knowledge you have now that you wish you would be able to convey to your younger self to help in any sort of the process?
If I could tell my younger self,
Yeah.
probably, well, definitely like keep submitting my book stuff out there. The hardest part, like marketing, like creating is the fun part and everything, but really just trying to get the name out there and just starting as soon as possible, just like reaching out to other authors, getting their advice, and mingling with the community and
Right.
podcasters like you.
Now, have you done any sort of like conventions or horror cons and anything like that to help promote your books and stories?
Yeah, so I did do Spooky Empire down in Orlando one of the years, and that was definitely an awesome experience. I shared a booth with two of my other friends who were also craft vendors, so we had like a whole. Whenever somebody came into our tent, there was like different spots basically because we all had like different things we were selling. Like I was the book spot, and then there was like my friend was like the Dungeons and Dragons lady, and then little like spooky goodies like in the other shop. So I thought it was like the perfect little walkthrough tent.
Yeah, was that like I'm having my first table here in November with our Days of the Dead. Is it weird being on the other side of the table? I mean, have you gone to cons and stuff before?
Yeah, it is really weird being on the other side of the table. I mean, it's a lot more sitting than I thought it was going to be. Like, oh man, I can't really go to the bathroom right now without like somebody covering my booth.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. And if you're ever interested in making your stuff into a comic, we'll touch base offline. I know we've had Night of the Chihuahuas writers and artists here on the show that I know a lot of comic people. We definitely hook you up.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, I don't know about you, but time flew by here for me. We have some of the hardest questions you'll be ever asked. You ready?
Oh boy. All right. Shoot me.
Practical or CGI?
Um, CGI.
You prefer CGI in horror movies as a whole?
It has to be done right. It can't be done over the top corny because I feel like there needs to be a balance. Like if it's too CGI, then it's terrible. But if it's just the right touch, it could look pretty realistic.
Yeah, unfortunately, our '90s CGI were not good in horror movies.
No way.
All right, so Rachel, if you were able to write a story and make money off it, or even get money to write something, is there any franchise or existing IP that you'd want to like dive into and write for?
Probably like film franchise. You mean?
Yeah, or even a story franchise. Like, do you want to write a Fear Street novel or scary stories to tell in the dark?
Well, probably a Goosebumps book and something in the Goosebumps era because that's what kind of I was raised on, and I feel like I would be going back to my roots if I was ever offered something like that.
For sure. And Teef points out, you're our first guest. This is episode 41 to say CGI. You're the first, so
I know against everybody, but it can't be over the top CGI. It needs to be just a touch.
So more like almost practical with CGI help, would you think?
Yeah, CGI help. I don't want to say that.
Okay, awesome. So any advice for anyone getting into writing and even self-publishing books?
Well, I would say like finishing the book is probably the hardest thing. So, just keep going. Like, if you can only do 500 words a day, just like, if you keep at it, you'll eventually finish the book, or, chapter a day or whatever. And just don't be discouraged, and just don't be, like, oh, I'm giving, like, if you take off a month, you take off a month, but, always just keep adding to it little by little, and eventually you'll finish. I want to say that's the best strategy I have.
Awesome. And anything that, for self-publishing that you wish that you knew before you self-published?
Well, I would have gone with the publishing company called Ingram Spark. It's a self-publishing platform, but they actually distribute to brick and mortar stores. So I've had a lot of trouble with Amazon trying to get my books into stores. Yeah, a lot of bookstores won't take it unless it's through Ingram Spark. So I would
Interesting.
Yeah. And Ingram Spark, I think, can also get online, like on Apple Books and everything. I don't think it can get on Amazon, but if you do like Amazon plus Ingram Spark, your books are going to get everywhere.
Awesome. So you ready for your random horror trivia question?
Yeah.
All right. What body part was the creature after in the movie Jeepers Creepers?
Oh man, I'm trying to think back. Was it?
He was going after Justin Long, if that will help you.
Was it an arm?
No. Do you want to know?
Yeah.
His eyes. The last shot is him kind of staring through his skin body.
You didn't watch that movie too long ago either. And it's the fourth horror movie.
Exactly. All right, Rachel. So where can everyone follow you on all your social media and find out everything that you're doing and working on?
Okay. Yeah. So my social media for Instagram is at Phantom Features Books. And then for YouTube, I think it's also the same thing, Phantom Features Books. If not, it's just Phantom Features. And then Facebook, Phantom Features.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Rachel, for joining us tonight on our show. I hope you had a blast. We'll see you next time, and make sure to not get lost in the void. Good night.
Thank you.